Hi, everyone. Welcome to By Design with Dr. Erika. Today on our show, I am joined by Caitlin Schneider, the owner and founder of Caitlin Red Yoga. She is a corporate wellness provider who is bringing her virtual yoga based program, Caitlin Red Corporate Wellness, to companies across the country. And today we are excited to have her here to talk about her journey from corporate to entrepreneurship, the importance of investing in yourself, and kind of everything in between that falls in there. So stay tuned. I'm glad you're here. Caitlin, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I am doing really well. It's a beautiful, almost winter morning here on Long Island.
Ah, nice, nice. At least you get some snow there. I'm in North Carolina and I'm like dying for snow.
I'm
And
a huge fan of snow.
you're a huge fan of snow?
I am, yes.
You have to be living up there.
Exactly.
I used to live in Jersey, so I remember those cold winters and long winters that don't end until like April.
Yes, very true.
So we mentioned, Caitlin, you are a yoga instructor, right?
I
With
am,
your
yes.
own business. How did yoga find you?
Yoga actually found me, which I feel like happens with a lot of people. It was when I was kind of like in a dark place. I was just actually let go from a long-term job that I had. But I was also dealing with just like a lot of personal issues also at the time, a lot of anxiety, probably suffering a little bit of depression and stuff. So it was after I got let go from that job that I kind of just felt really lost. I didn't really know what to do. Um, I was like underweight at the time and just like kind of feeling really weak. And I'm like, I don't know really what to do with myself. So what I did was I was sitting in my basement and the thought just kind of came across my mind, like, a lot of people say yoga is really great for the mind and the body and all that stuff. I should give it a try. So I did. I just went on Amazon Prime and found a video and I just started doing it myself in my basement. And I really took to it. I found that it was super beneficial, just, not only does it make you like have the yoga body, but for me, it was really about like getting the yoga mind and just really calming down and kind of learning to love myself again, ease the anxiety, kind of calm some anger. I had a bit of a little bit of a rage issue too. So it just really helped me balance all that stuff out. And kind of saved my life.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I found yoga myself as I was working in corporate.
Yeah,
You kind of need that in those corporate days sometimes, just being able to recenter yourself. So you
exactly.
got let go of your job or from your job, found yoga. A lot of people find yoga, like we just said. How did you think, well, I can do this as a career? Maybe I can just switch around and change from what I was doing to do yoga.
It was kind of like, it wasn't really my decision at first. It was a lot of people, because when I was doing yoga, I would post pictures of myself, just kind of, my progress and all that stuff, just because I thought it was fun. And a lot of people were telling me, like, you should teach, you should teach. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I just started. I have no idea. I've never taught anything in my life. I'm not a teacher.
Uh-huh.
I always kind of was like, me, I don't think I have the patience to really teach anybody anything. Um, and then I joined a Facebook group. It's called the Yoga Goddess Collective, and in there I was also doing like some mini challenges. And I think the person running that group was also on Instagram, so I did like a yoga challenge where like you kind of just post yourself doing a pose every day. Um, I actually ended up winning the first challenge I was in, which I was like, that's really awesome, yay! And the teacher reached out to me, the group leader. She's a yoga instructor and a yoga teacher trainer. And she reached out to me and was like, have you ever considered teaching yoga? And I was like, you're probably the 10th person who's asked me that. But coming from someone who actually teaches yoga teachers, I took that as like, very flattering. So I was like, no, not really. But, I just felt like, am I the kind of person who should be teaching yoga? Because I just had a very, I guess, a kind of wrong assumption as to like who yoga teachers really were and like their personalities and stuff. And I have a very, I guess, different personality than what typically, my brain, what I thought yoga was. And I was just like, I don't think I'm really the kind of person to do that. And she's like, no, you're exactly the kind of person who needs to teach yoga because you're not the typical person that people would think. And there's a big audience for people just like you, like, because I'm a big metalhead. I love metal music. Um, like my favorite holiday is Halloween. Like I'm a little bit like unconventional. So she's like, that's the kind of teachers I look for, people who are unconventional. because there's a lot of people out there who won't try yoga because they're afraid or intimidated. They think you have to be super flexible, or that you have to be super spiritual, or, just like happy go lucky and all the time and stuff. And, you're the type of person who can like break that kind of barrier, bring
Mhm.
people like yourself in, for
Mhm.
people like who just don't identify with, kind of like the shiny, happy side of yoga, which really is kind of a myth. I feel like a lot of yoga teachers were people like me who struggled. So, just bringing that to the surface was something that I felt like was a calling for me in itself. So it just made sense for me then to go, I should learn how to do this and teach it, so I can get people like myself to be like inspired to try it. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where that naturally went to. I got my certification in August 2019. I started teaching in person, and then, as the world went, by March, I was not teaching in person. I was doing it all online.
Right, right. And it's so funny that you say that because I'm that exact yoga person. Like I hated I don't want to say hate. I didn't like I don't even know what kind of music it was. The yoga music. It was not
Yes.
my thing. And
Yeah.
so my instructors that I tended to gravitate towards played like old school 70s, 80s R&B and pop, but it was very low key and mellow in the background,
Right.
but it resonated with me.
Yeah, and I
So
just didn't think that that was possible. I really thought that there were like set rules, like you couldn't listen to this type of music. You had to believe in like, you know, God and spirits, and like like know all of the yoga sutras by heart, and like,
mhm,
be able to speak in Sanskrit and I'm just like, now knowing what I know, it's obviously not true. And personally, I don't resonate with that stuff. When I first started to do yoga, the teacher who I took the classes with, like the pre-recorded, sessions that were on Amazon, the way at first, the way that she spoke immediately set me off. I was just like, why is she so calm? Why is she so smiley? What is she smiling about? Like, because I was just in a, obviously an angry place, but it was really hard for me to adapt to. I was just like, she's so chill and it's actually triggering me. So then, obviously that was something I needed to explore and be like, why am I getting so mad about someone who's happy? And that's,
mhm,
a whole other story. But, there was a lot of things that I just rolled my eyes about and was just like, I don't really resonate with this. So that's where I was like, I got to kind of develop something that's more my style. And
mhm.
I'm sure there's people like me who roll their eyes at certain things and are like, yeah, I can't relate. And that makes people leave. That makes people kind of quit and get intimidated and feel like they don't belong. So, I'm
Mhm.
trying to get everybody to feel like they're included.
Right. And I think that sort of thinking or mindset kind of it spills over into other things beyond just yoga, right? You can
Right.
have an entrepreneur that's coming out and wants to be a life coach, and they look and see like a life coach should be X, Y, and Z, or somebody that wants to be a fitness instructor and it should be X, Y, and Z. And you think that, there's so many people in that space. How can I actually come in and provide some value? You know what I
Yep.
mean?
I know
So,
exactly what you mean, because I have to tell you, that's been my biggest struggle with starting my own business is, I'm in a community, like a container with a bunch of entrepreneurs that were yoga teachers for the most part. And, you kind of are looking at everybody else and not really sure if what you're doing is right, or you tend to sort of unconsciously or subconsciously take on other people's personalities a little bit, and you kind of lose your way, and you're just like, am I even being authentic right now? And I had the big reflection over the last few weeks of like, no, I haven't been being myself. So, there's always like you have to ask the world's permission, like, can I be myself and do this? So that's been like my biggest struggle, is just really like having the bravery and the courage to like be me in my, in this world, um and breaking the rules a little bit. And even though those rules don't really exist, you just have to kind of, for people like me who used to think there were certain rules with yoga, I'm sure there's people like even myself that was like, life coaching and wellness coaching have a set of rules, but you have to just, I had to find courage in myself to go, what, I have to sort of break those rules, like, in order to be myself. Otherwise I can't do this. Like, I can't
right,
be fake. I can't pretend to be someone else. And that's a
right.
struggle.
What do you think? Because going down that idea of, finding the courage to really just show up as you, what do you think has helped you sort of find that courage or rediscover that courage?
I think, just listening to a lot of like I'm in a coaching community, and I have several coaches. I have about 5 different coaches that help me in different areas.
Wait,
Um,
wait, what? You said you have 5 different coaches?
well, I'm in 2 different coaching programs. Actually,
Okay.
there's 6. So one of the coaching programs has 5. So there's like a mindset coach, there's accountability coach, there's a
Mhm,
sales coach, there's a marketing coach, and then there's like a tech coach that teaches you like how to, bring your programs online, like all the techie stuff, like,
mhm,
the settings on Zoom and all those things. And then I'm in a corporate yoga coaching. So she, helps me develop my coaching program for corporate, the ins and outs and all that kind of stuff that I really need to be presenting, like how to sell it really. So just kind of discussing these things and, with them, and bouncing my ideas off of them, and just like I said before, like asking permission in a weird way of just like saying, is this allowed? Like, am I allowed to be the crazy metalhead in this world? And I think they kind of were able to see that just the things that I've been trying to do really weren't working. And they sense my frustration. Um, and just really kind of talk me through it of like, why do you think this isn't working? And I said, because I'm not being me. And if I can't be me, I don't want to do this. And with corporate yoga, I can't really be myself. You're in corporate. You have to just teach the yoga, do
mhm.
the corporate thing. I know how to be that person. I've been that person, I feel like, my whole adult life working in corporate. But I've never really, aside from when, different topic, like when I used to actually, when I was a musician and was in my own band, that was when I felt like my most self. So I was like, how can I bring that into my business? Because that's when I was most happy. That's when I was myself. So I have to do this that way. Otherwise, it's going to be torture.
Mhm.
I can't put on a front in my business. Like it has to be me. It has to, and it has to stand out, because everything can kind of become run of the mill and cookie cutter and just so kind of basic, and people won't resonate, and it gets saturated and flooded. And I'm like, I have to be different, and I am different. So why not be me, you know?
Right, right. Do you think you would have gotten to that place of accepting your difference and wanting to be, or needed to be different to be you, without having those various coaches in your circle?
Probably not, because I just don't think I would have, it's nice to have a little bit of validation, like,
Mhm.
and just talking things out, and being coached. Like, I feel like in a way we all need to be coached. We all need to have people bounce our ideas off of, and people who are kind of like not biased, people who don't really um have skin in the game with just me personally. Like they can be more like, subjective of just like, I can see this, that, and that, and I can determine, I think you need to do this. Whereas like, of course I talk about it with my husband and my friends. And I value their opinion. It's just obviously they're not coaches, they're not in this world, but like, getting their encouragement of like I need to be myself is validating. But sometimes you need a little bit more uh kind of, validation from somebody with experience that's like already in the world.
Mhm.
Can kind of tell you like, yeah, I don't think you should do that, like, or really say, hey, that's exactly what you need to do. So I just really needed a little bit of support in that area. Sometimes we can't look at ourselves and really make the right decisions all the time. I have the hardest time really looking at me, and like I can coach anybody. I feel like if somebody has an issue, I can kind of help them through it, but sometimes with myself I can't do that. Like I need help. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
definitely needed that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's so funny. I was talking. I have coaches too. Um, I was listening to my coach talk one day about planning your goals and everything. And for some reason in my head, I was having the hardest time this week. And she's like, make sure your goals have an outcome. And I just giggled because I'm like, I tell my clients this all the time, and here I am struggling because I haven't put outcomes to my goals. Because sometimes you just get in your head
Mhm.
and you just kind of talk yourself out of whatever it is, or you discourage yourself out of whatever it is. So you need, like you say, that outside opinion to kind of snap you back
Mhm.
into reality.
Absolutely. I am the biggest, like, I get in my head, I
Mhm.
talk myself out of things, I overthink everything.
Oh
So
yeah.
I just need somebody to kind of like pump the brakes and be like, stop thinking too hard. Just take the action. Just do
Right.
it. Just take, imperfect action is like the biggest slogan in my coaching community. And, I have a tendency to be a little bit of a perfectionist. And if it's not completely to my liking, or if I don't really know what or if I get kind of like stuck on the outcome, that's when I actually don't take action because I'm
Right.
just like, I get so hung up on it. And I'm like, no, I have to keep just doing stuff and not worry so much about what the outcome is going to be. And a lot of times you just get happily surprised, like when you just actually do the thing. And it
Yeah.
was such a hard thing for me to just actually do the thing. So
Yeah.
I totally need that support. Especially in the beginning. Like I'm obviously brand new to the business world. So,
Hmm.
having that is definitely crucial.
Yeah, me too. I'm recovering perfectionist right here, still working through it. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, because one of the things I did want to talk to you about is exactly this, it's kind of investing in yourself and getting that help and, bringing those people into your tribe.
Mhm.
A lot of people here, I have 5 coaches and they're like, she must be spending $50,000. At what point, even in the new entrepreneur space, how are you able to say, this money that I'm investing is important?
That's a very good question because I feel like I've had such experience with spending money and having it do absolutely nothing for me. Like, I guess I'm in a way like a recovering shopaholic where, I'd spend my money on Starbucks and Sephora and the Gap and
Sephora.
whatever. Yeah, I have to really stay away from Sephora. It's like,
Are you Rouge?
I was.
Oh,
I was. That's when I knew I had a problem.
exactly, exactly. I'm there too. Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just had to
No,
ask
it's
that.
okay. No, it's funny that I completely forgot about I'm trying to forget about that in a way. But yeah, I was that person. I had spent way too much money. But when you invest in yourself, as far as like, it's not something that it's not a material possession. It's not something that's like an item that you can hold. So I think it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that sometimes. It's like, well, I'm investing in a class, but at the same time, like, it's you can think about it like going to college. People pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get their degree, gain knowledge, and hopefully then it turns into, a career. So it's the same way. Like I've never taken a business class in my entire life. I was a science person in college. So I knew I was like, I can't start a business without having any of this marketing and sales knowledge. Marketing, if you'd asked me, 6 months ago, like, what is marketing? I would be like, I have no idea what that means. Like you just, putting ads up. Like it's so
Right.
much more than that. So I knew I was like, if I'm going to make money, I have to spend money. It's such a like old slogan and old saying, but it's so true.
Mhm.
Um, and the return on investment is always going to be more than you spend on yourself. And it took me a really long time to get over that fear. I had money issues in the past where I'm just like so afraid to go into debt again. But to me, this is not really a debt. It's obviously business debt, and that's everybody. Everybody gets into a business debt. So when I had to wrap my head around like really giving somebody money, putting trust into like the outcome, trust in myself that I'm going to utilize it properly. That was a huge, huge step. Now it's like whenever I see an opportunity that I know is going to help me grow, not only personally, but business wise, I am like, where's my debit card? I am investing in this because it's always going to be a return. You're always going to make that money back. As long as you don't quit and give up. Um, so that to me has been the most important part of this whole process is just investing in myself. Plus, like when you invest in yourself, you're going to show up, you're going to do the work. It's your money. You want to make sure that it's being, not used in vain. So, I just feel like there's a fire under me. Like the minute I, spend money on myself, I'm like, I'm so motivated. Like I have to make this worthwhile. So
Right.
so
No.
important.
Yeah, I agree. It took me a minute to get there in terms of the investing in myself because you just, to your point, you're just so scared of what's going to happen. Is it going to be worth it? But I think a lot of people, they get caught up sometimes in the overload of information and just buying everything
Mhm.
and not really thinking how it's going to apply to their business or how they can apply it to their business.
Exactly.
But that's one thing to keep in mind. And also, you can pay for something. They can give you the best tips, advice in the world. But if you aren't ready to receive it and implement it,
Mhm.
then it's going to be a waste of money. So,
Exactly. And
yeah.
I'll say the implementation has definitely been the hardest part for me. I think because I'm just such a I guess maybe like this sounds weird to say, but like I've been such a student and I'm always like intake, you know, learn, absorb, but then having to put that out. And especially like the struggle for me obviously was putting it out in the authentic way. So that's still something that I am in the process of transitioning. So you also, like, as much as you can invest in yourself and take coaching after coaching, there's a time where you also then have to like let go and go, all right, I had the support. I still have the support. It's never going to be completely gone, but I have to then like take what I've learned and actually go on my own.
Right.
And that's scary. That's really scary to, like, you have that person's hand you're holding on to, and then you have to just release and be
Mhm.
like, okay, and I'm in that phase right now where I'm really trying to implement as much as possible without asking for feedback.
Right.
And that's the other thing I kind of got addicted to. So I have to sort of now move away. So now, like, and I'm glad that I have the realization of just like, all right, even if it's not perfect, and trusting myself, trusting that I've learned what I learned and I know what I'm doing. Even my coach said, she's like, you understand this on such an intellectual level, like probably the most out of everybody we have in this group right now. So, you know, you can do this. So there is that big trust factor of like, I have to turn around and actually make it happen. Um, and again, it's a trust thing. I'm sure I can. It's just like, it's very easy to get in your head and just be like, maybe I should check in and make sure that this word is right and it's the right time of day to post this, and it's, the right day of the week and the sun is in the
Right.
perfect
Right.
angle in the sky. It's just it gets so ridiculous that it's like you have to just do it and
Right.
stop thinking.
Right. Right. You do. And
Mm,
when I get in that space, I try to think about like the top one percenters in the world, like the Oprahs or the Les Browns or Tony Robbins. And I'm like, when they were 8 months and a year in, I'm sure their stuff was not perfect.
yeah.
It was crap probably,
Yeah.
but they put it out there and they just worked it, they improved it, and they are where they are now. So we all have a place to start. And
Exactly.
you are okay where you are. Just do it and build and grow from it. And that's what I have to keep telling myself
Hmm.
as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. I love it. All right.
Hmm.
So you have been an entrepreneur for now, you said, is it 6 months?
Well, I actually kind of like I started doing my own business while I was working.
Mm,
So that was probably like September of last year, where I started working with the coach that I'm with now, but on a different container, where she was at the time teaching us how to be private yoga instructors and starting your own private yoga business, which to me made so much sense at
mm,
the time before COVID, because I'm like, I live in the New York metropolitan area. I can get a ton, especially Long Island. I'm like, I can probably get a ton of people who are, busy, either lawyers or doctors or somebody like that, that just don't have the time to go to a yoga studio, are going to need to hire somebody to come into their home, which was where I was really going with that. And, pay somebody to have an exclusive teacher that can cater to like their specific needs, their schedule, and just all that kind of stuff. And that just made so much sense because I really didn't want to she was all about like not, the studio hustle where like you're only making like $30 for one class. Whereas like if you do it privately, you can make obviously a lot more than that.
mhm.
And that to me just rang a bell in my head. I'm like, that makes so much more sense. But then obviously COVID came about. I actually ended up getting let go from my job due to COVID. So in my brain, I was like, this is a sign. This was in March. So I'm like, I have to take the opportunity now to really do my business. I didn't know if I was going to be coming back to my job. They haven't called me yet. So I just was like, I think that period of my life is really over and I have to really, really take this seriously now. So that's when I enrolled in the coaching class. The coaching class that I was doing for the last 6 months is actually today's the graduation day.
Oh,
That's over. So
congratulations.
thank you. And then I enrolled in a more of like a mastermind class that's like a year long. So that started in September. So that kind of like rolled into um it's with the same coach. So now I'm going to be doing that through 2021, which is awesome because she learns and grows. So like in a way, I get to absorb what she's learning and growing from her own trainings and coachings and stuff. So yeah, so like once the job kind of had to let me go because it was in construction and we were all construction halted and stuff.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, all right, this is it. This is the sign that I have to really do this now. So yeah, it's been about since March.
Okay. So wait, now you made me think of something that I forgot to ask you, and I have to go back to it. Your coaches, How are you finding your coaches? Because that's something that people I think struggle with is where to find a coach and how do you know you have a good coach?
Um, First, I'm gonna just apologize that my dogs are barking in the background. I found I found the coach that I'm working with now through my yoga teacher trainer.
Mhm.
She, I guess, had networked. It's all about the networking. So I was in her container learning how to become a yoga teacher. I hadn't got my certification yet, and she brought in a guest coach, and she was the one that was showing us how to really become a private yoga instructor. So I knew, I was like, the second I get my certification, I am going to hook up with this chick and really pick her brain and learn this, because I was like, I think I need to just bypass the struggle part of the yoga teacher world and just really get serious about this private teaching. So that's where I learned with her. And then after she was doing the private yoga instructing courses, she then developed how to become an online uh, yoga teacher and create like an online course or an online program. And this was right before COVID that I signed up for this course. And it just something about the way that she was going with it, like the future, being like, everything's going to really be online before she even knew anything about COVID. And I'm like, you know what? I think she's right. Let me enroll in that course because that sounds makes a lot of sense. And personally, I would rather do my stuff from home. I don't really like, I'm a homebody. So if anything I can do in the house is perfect for me. So I enrolled in that course and then COVID hit and I was like, wow, could this not be the best timing in the entire world? Because everybody's transitioning to online and I'm already in this container. So yeah, so I met her through my yoga teacher trainer
Gotcha.
and it's history from there.
Networking, networking, networking. Even in the virtual world, networking.
Yeah, absolutely. And she has a Facebook group. It's all a lot of Facebook groups is like really where I've met a lot of these people and got connected. And then through the private yoga instructor or teacher, I met my corporate yoga teacher. And I was like, that also makes sense because I have corporate background, I have corporate experience. And I wish when I was in corporate, I had somebody actually come into the office and like calm me down and do meditations. I was like, this also makes sense. So I enrolled in her program and that was in January. And then that one got a little sticky because I was like, all right, well, if we're going to be not in offices, what are we doing? And then, that also then evolved into, okay, everybody's working remotely. We're going to do this remotely. And I was like,
Mhm.
of course. Like
Right.
it was just such a weird, odd, natural progression. The way the universe just aligned, I was like, this is where I'm going. This is it's taking me with it. And I'm just going to go with the flow.
Right. But I think the thing that I'm hearing from you is that when the pivot came, when it came time to do the pivot, you were accepting of it and not fighting against it.
Exactly. And I think a lot of, and maybe because I was such a newbie to the yoga world and the yoga teaching world, I hadn't really had a serious foundation of like, it's studio. I'm going into a studio. I have to teach in person. I have to be, face to face. I have to be, like manually aligning, adjusting people in their poses, which personally I was never a fan of doing that. I like to just verbally cue people. I'm not a huge
Mhm.
fan of just touching people in general. So
Randomly.
it seemed like my personality was really conducive to like going virtual. I'm like, oh, so I don't have to like touch people. I don't necessarily have to be in their presence and I can still be a presence. Like, I taught a course for 8 weeks and everybody who was in my online course was like, even though we weren't together, it was still a community. And I was like, that's awesome to hear because I'm a little bit of a hermit too. So I'm like, all right, that worked. I'm in the house, but I was still there. I was still supporting everybody and I was able to really take people where they needed to be and I didn't have to be with them. So when I got that validation, I was like, oh wow, I can really do anything from home.
Pretty much. Pretty much. So in this time of you actually, being away from corporate and actually doing full-time entrepreneurship, what is one thing that you wish you had known about this journey before you started?
That's a good question. I think, I mean, I try not to get too hard on myself because obviously I can go down the path of like, I wish I had sales knowledge. I wish I had marketing knowledge. I wish I would have taken business courses in school. I try not to go there because I'm just like, you know what? I'm exactly where I need to be now and I have the support. I think I probably would have, I wish I would have known maybe a little sooner that it was okay to be me and like, you really do have to be yourself. And maybe also, since my corporate experience, I was an administrative assistant and executive assistant for the most part. I was never a boss. I was never a manager. I never had to make serious decisions. I never had to make my own schedule. I never had to manage I managed myself to a degree, but I always had somebody kind of overlooking and being like, did you meet that deadline? This is the structure. Like I always walked into a structure that was already set up. So
Mhm.
I think the biggest sort of like maybe how do I describe it? Wake up call was like when I started my own business, I'm like, okay, I have to do all that myself. Like that was a little bit hard for me to really recognize in the beginning. I'm like, okay, I have coaching and I have people that are kind of helping me out and kind of and giving me, a lot of templates for certain posts and all that kind of stuff. But like they didn't really, they're not in charge of like how I structure my day. I
Mhm.
mean, I think I had somebody actually intervene with me and say, like, do you have a schedule? And I'm like, no. Like I kind of just wake up and I sit in my computer and I kind of figure it out. And that was sort of like a tough transition of like, no, Caitlin, you actually have to get into a calendar, like set time schedules. Like morning is this. Okay, 10 a.m. is you do that. All right, do that for like 90 minutes and then, take a break. And then do outreach at this time. Do follow-ups on this time. Like I didn't really have that mentality going into it. So that was really tough. That was like, okay, now I actually have to be my own boss.
Right.
And it sounds cute and fun. I'm like, yeah, I'm a bad boss babe. And I'm like, no, I'm not actually. I have to actually step up and oversee myself. Like that was a really rough period where I'm like, oh crap, I don't have like somebody checking my work and like really managing me. I have to do that myself.
Wow. That's you must have been in my brain, and because that was where I was heading actually. Because one thing I like to ask everybody, since I work with scattered entrepreneurs
Mhm.
who can't really do exactly what you just said. They can't figure out how to sort of do their day and take their big idea into actionable steps. And
Right.
so the one thing I wanted to kind of wrap up our discussion with was how do you, in having five coaches, in being married, in doing corporate wellness and private wellness and Zoom and all that kind of stuff, how do you stay organized?
It's really all about the calendar and tweaking it. And a big thing I had to really sort of ask myself every day too with my calendar and when I'm inputting things into my calendar and saying like, is this going to generate, am I doing something that's going to move the needle forward? So it's not always like, is it going to bring me money? I mean, subconscious in your head, you're like, all right, I kind of want money. But like at the same time, you're like, is this going to help me grow? Is this going to help me get new leads for my program? Is this going to help me get new leads for my corporate um, program? Is this going to help me network? Is this going to help me get on a podcast? Like, I mean, it's a lot of stuff is like you have to do things with intention. Um, so that was also a big thing. Like, you can't just sit in front of your computer and just like be like, well, maybe I'll write a piece about stress. You have to be like, why am I writing a piece about stress? What am I trying to do with that piece? Who
Mhm.
am I trying to reach? Who am I trying to get into my DMs with? Like, is this going to generate conversations in DMs? Like, it's really like making sure everything you're doing is intentional, and also making sure that you're taking time for yourself, because that was another thing I kind of struggled with. Was I was like loading up my calendar from like basically 9 a.m. to like 11 p.m. of just work, 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 work. And I'm like, I have no self-care time. So as a yoga teacher, I'm like, okay, I'm falling into that trap where I'm working, 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 and I'm not working on me. So I'm like, I even have to put that on my calendar. Like, you have to just be so precise. And also just like, forgiving yourself if you skip something, if you're just like, you know what, that's not really, I don't think I'm need to do that right now. Like, I'm kind of really on a roll with this. So just knowing that you can like move your calendar around, obviously it's not set in stone, but just really having a way to organize. A lot of people use asana
Mhm.
calendar. I haven't gone there yet. I think that's going to be my next step, because that you can actually put your content into that app or whatever. I still don't even exactly. I don't know if you can only do it on your phone or if you do it on your MacBook, but or computer.
It's both.
Um,
Yep.
okay,
So
yeah, I gotta research that one. So that I once I feel like I'm really more into a flow,
Mhm.
because I'm still adapting. I'm still finding like, all right, maybe this is a better time of day to do that and everything else. It's all a work in progress. I'm like, that's going to be my next step, is taking it to that next level and being like, all right, now I'm going to work with a content calendar and really put that stuff in there so that when I can go, okay, what am I doing today? Oh, I'm posting that thing about, why it's important to make sure you walk away from your desk for 2 minutes. Um, so it's just really like, it's all about the calendar, 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 self-care. Thankfully my husband, he is working out of the house. So and I don't mean to say that in a mean way of being like, he's gone, but at the same time, he works really long hours. So I do also then have that space
Right.
of being home and not having too many distractions. And I don't mean that in a mean way again. Like I love when he's here. I love his distractions, but at the same time, it's like, I definitely have to make sure I'm managing my own time. He's completely understanding of that, which is awesome. And yeah, like I don't have children, so I feel for people that have children that are working from home and are trying to start their businesses. I don't know how they even do that.
Yeah.
So kudos to them, snaps for them. Um, but yeah, other than that, it's just making sure I kind of remain accountable for myself and what I'm doing, and just making sure that everything I do is to move the needle forward.
Mhm. Yeah. I think you made some good points and I completely agree. Asana, the project manager tool, if you check out ClickUp as well. I used to be on Asana and I
Okay.
switched to ClickUp and I love it.
Okay. I'm
Um,
writing that down.
but yeah, definitely being able to time block and you kind of manage your time and stick to those time blocks and those timelines. I found when I first started, like I would set a time block for 2 hours, let's say, and I wouldn't finish. And I'm like, oh, I'll just work on it for an extra another hour to get it done. And it just kind of throws you off. So being
Mhm.
able to be honest and true to yourself and
Right.
actually not looking at that as a failure, right? If it takes longer than 2 hours, but saying, okay, now I know it takes this amount of time. Let's readjust the calendar to be more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, like, I kind of, maybe in my little rebellious way of like moving from having that, 8 to 5 schedule in a corporate setting, or 8:30 to 5:30 or whatever it was for me. Um, in the beginning, I was like, you know what? I can sleep in and do whatever I want. It's my business and I'll just work until late, late in the night and do whatever. That didn't work either. I'm just like, you know what? I had my selfish time. I was a little bit of a, a-hole in the beginning, but I'm like, no, I really actually need to wake up. Like, I'm not a huge morning person, but I'm like, you know what? There are things I can do in the morning that by the time the end of the night comes, I don't want to do it anymore. I kind of just want to sit and chill and watch, something on television. So I'm like, no, I have to actually get up in the morning and do things so that I'm not kicking myself in the head at, the end of the night about.
Right. Right. And it's about like like you said at the beginning, it's being authentic to you. Everybody has sort of like their power hour or like when they are at their best. Mine, I'm a morning person. So like I'm at my best in the morning. So I get everything like heavy done in the morning. By 3 o'clock, I'm like, can you leave me alone? I just can't. So it's
Yeah.
finding that rhythm. And it takes a while, especially as a new entrepreneur, to find that rhythm.
Absolutely. And I find that like my creative time, even though it is at night, even though night, I find myself being less disciplined at night. Like I kind
Mhm.
of like take my laptop up to bed. I have the TV on, I'm typing as I'm watching television, which is fine. But I try to take that less seriously. Like if I'm just going to type for the sake of typing, I'm like, all right, that's not going to be a part of my schedule. It'll just be something, if I feel creative in the moment, I'm just going to type up stuff and have that just be like a bonus hour.
Right.
So
Love it.
yeah.
Love it. Awesome. So, Caitlin, where do you see Caitlin Red Yoga heading in 2021?
So for 2021, I definitely see myself having a few, because I don't want to like overwhelm myself of having like corporate customers, but definitely like year-long programs with my corporate customers. That's my goal, because really it takes about a few months to really develop the habit, and these corporations are really kind of having a hard hit right now, especially with 2020. Like I'm hearing, things in like the news about, and just research articles I'm reading, and some of the decisions that corporate has made over the last year with the pandemic may not have been the best decisions, like with laying people off. A lot of them are regretting it because now their current staff is being overloaded. So I would love to be that person to go in and be like, all right, let's not lose the people you still have. I can come in and help them with meditation, yoga, just taking a break, just managing their stress and all this, the overload and the overwhelm. I would really love to do that and be able to give back to the corporate community, since, I've been there.
Right.
And then also with my private Facebook group, I actually, since we last spoke, I actually changed the name of that group and the focus.
Okay.
Originally, it was going to deal with like people who are dealing with emotional abuse in the workplace. I have since changed that because even though that was something I had experienced in my time in corporate, I just felt like, I still am not being myself in my message and in my branding. So I changed over my branding to be a little bit more edgy and like the heavy metal vibe. So I've changed the focus to I'm not moving away from that topic entirely. Like I'll still definitely, if people I'm working with are experiencing that, that's definitely something I'm super passionate to help them about. But it's definitely going to be more like wellness and coaching, like mindset work for people like me, people who are more of the edgy chick, more like the heavy metal girl, like people who kind of grew up sort of being like a little bit of an outcast, a little bit of an outsider, not really in the popular crowd. So that now when they're an adult, they may have been struggling with really adapting to kind of like modern and like, I don't say modern society, but just kind of like, you used to, like me, like I used to go to metal shows and I'd be like, yeah, cool. Now I'm being thrust into a corporate environment where I have to kind of hide who I am and be like, all right, I'm just another face in the office. And you kind of lose yourself. You become really frustrated and you're just like, who am I? So you want to do wellness. You want to manage your stresses and your anxieties and maybe some of your past traumas and things like that. But you don't know if like doing something like yoga or meditation is really a place where you belong. Where like I had that same kind of identity crisis as well. I'm like, I really want to do yoga, but are people going to make fun of me? Like, or am I going to be looked at like, ew, get out of here. You're not a smiley person. Like, we don't want you here. Like, this isn't meant for you. Like, so I really want to grab those people like myself and just really give them like, the life coaching, the mindset coaching, the yoga wellness, like all the things that help turn my life around
Yeah.
and do that for them as well in my private Facebook group. And um, working on like a 3-month program to help get them started.
Okay. Awesome. What's the group called?
The group is now called, I'm not going to curse, but I will just say the F. I'll say it's called the Unf-withable Woman, a new level of confidence and power. So it's really about building up resilience because I know right now, like the world is so crazy. And I think a lot of people have said like, wow, like, the world's falling apart, but Caitlin, how are you really holding up? And I'm like, honestly, it's like, not only have I've been through some crazy stuff in my life, but just my wellness practices for myself and my yoga and just everything that I've learned in my, last couple of years of practicing, I just feel like I'm okay. Like the world can fall apart and things happen, but I always bounce back. I always find, the solutions to like, all right, you know, uh, like I lost my job and I'm like, all right, well, it's not the end of the world. Like I have a better way of letting things roll off of me. And I think people are really seeking that kind of resilience right now, considering what's going on. So I can definitely be that person to get them to that, not only just inner confidence, but just like, you know, not letting things like in the past, if there was any kind of minor inconvenience, I would just be like, I give up. I hate life. I hate the world. I'm going in my room and not talking to anybody, and that's it. And you just are like, always thinking the world's against you.
Right.
And that's really, I want to help people that are kind of in that mentality where it's like, they just feel like everything is against them because I've been there. So, you
Gotcha.
know, that's what I
That's
want to do.
2021.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right, that is awesome. Well, we have come to the portion of our chat where we have a little bit something different for you, Caitlin. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Are you sure?
Actually, now I am not sure. No, I'm kidding. I'm definitely ready. Bring it on.
All right, guys, you know what time this is. It is time for our Fab Four. And Caitlin, just whatever comes to your mind, just shout it out. All right, Caitlin, what's the strangest food you've ever eaten?
The strangest what?
Food.
Hmm. Mm, oh my God. I don't know because I'm such a weirdo with food. Um,
That's what makes it good.
yeah. Well, meaning like I tend to be afraid of weird.
Oh,
Um, so maybe uh oh, one time I didn't mean to do this, but I had a hot dog that had cheese inside of it, like melted cheese inside the hot dog. And I was like, what in the F? Like, I thought it was like bad. And like, but when I thought about it later, I was like, you know what? That wouldn't have been as terrible if I knew that was coming. I was just like, oh, gross. But yeah, so that was weird.
Cheese on a hot dog in general, I can't. I get it. Okay. Awesome. All right. Next one. If you had a magic wand, what 3 things would you change in the world?
I would definitely change like the way we all judge each other and prejudge and all that kind of stuff. And, just the overall hate. Like and being so occupied with like what everybody's doing, and it's just like, why do we care about so much what we're doing? We can just live our lives and be happy. And as long as we're not killing people and hurting everybody, then who cares? I just wish we would all stay in our lanes, and that would be one thing. Another would be, changing the world. That COVID would go away. That'd be nice, and we
Oh
go
my
back
gosh,
to our
yeah.
go back to our concerts, because I'm such a like, I had to miss a couple of metal shows the last year, and I'm like, oh man, like, and I know it's not the worst thing in the world, obviously, because
No,
this
I
is
get it. I've missed Comic Cons all year.
yes, I go to Comic-Con every year up here. Yeah.
At New York?
Yep.
Go away.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I always dress up as Cersei Lannister, and I was like, oh no, I can't go this year. Like,
Oh, yes, it
and
sucks.
those are like, in retrospect, those are just like the minor things. I have a feeling by next year it'll be fine, but I just it needs to happen. Like next year needs to be a new year, like for sure.
Yeah.
And then the third thing, um, changing the world. Hmm. Um, that we can just all really like always just try to be happy, and just no matter. And I hate that toxic positivity stuff, but just like always trying to find the good in people. Like I just feel like we're always trying to pick each other apart and
Mhm.
point fingers and just harp on the negative. But I just think it'd be nice if we could just really always just look for the good.
Mhm.
Always try to have fun.
Love it. Love it. Get rid of hate, COVID, and let's bring the love and the joy and the happiness.
Exactly.
All right. Third question. If you were to write a book about yourself, what would you name
That's a good one, because
it?
I've thought of this, and it wasn't for a book, but it was for a podcast. Like if I ever started a podcast, I would say I'd call it uh, a heavy metal girl in a yogi world.
I like that.
Copyright. No, I'm kidding.
That's cute. I like that. We'll be
Thank
looking
you.
for the podcast.
Absolutely.
And the last one is just to finish this statement. I am.
I am happy with myself.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. I love that. Love it, Caitlin. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for being here. You have been an awesome guest. If people want to stay connected with you or, find you for some private not coaching, private, I can't even talk now, private yoga sessions, how can they do that?
Well, you can definitely find me on my website. I have a couple of websites. This one kind of morphs into one. So there's Caitlin Red Corporate Wellness. So if anybody wants to hire me for their corporate, their jobs, anybody in corporate that's needing a wellness program, I have a whole virtual platform, and I teach live sessions. So that's Caitlin Red Corporate Wellness. My Instagram, it was Caitlin Red Yoga, but I recently I'm sure if you put in Caitlin Red Yoga, I'll pop up. But I changed it to just Caitlin J Schneider, so you can find me there. My Facebook group is called The Unfwithable Woman: A New Level of Confidence and Power. But the handle is Facebook groups Facebook at groups Be Unfwithable. And I think that's kind of it. I'm on LinkedIn as well if anybody wants to look me up on LinkedIn, Caitlin Schneider, New York metro area. So yeah, definitely let me know if anybody needs anything. You can hit me up.
Awesome. And we will, as always, include all those different social media handles and websites in the show notes. So don't worry if you didn't catch it. I got you. So thank you all. That is all we have for today's episode of By Design with Dr. Erika. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you, Caitlin, for being here. And we hope to see you guys next time. All right, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Thank
Bye.
you.